Hello and welcome to this pattern recognition video. So in the past I've tried different things when it comes to pattern recognition videos, and I had a request from a viewer to divide the videos up and the playlists into specific tactics. That way you can really focus on one pattern at a time. So today I'm going to do Zwischenzug, if that's pronounced correctly, those patterns. And if you're not familiar with that, it's intermezzo, which I think is Italian, or in between move in English. So basically, today I'm just going to show you some patterns with the in between move. And so the first one here, I'll try and do at least 5. I've set these in beginner level 1, rated 100 to 1000. And as I do more, bump up the difficulty level. So an example of an in-between move, basically in this position, I believe a pawn captured a pawn here. Now it created a discovered attack on this unprotected rook. So you might think, all right, this has to be dealt with. We have to move the rook or capture their rook, or move the rook maybe to e5 where it's protected. But there's an in-between move which can be played here. So if we take a look at this, and if you're not familiar with pattern recognition videos, basically you solve a group of problems and you go over them nice and slow the first time, and then the next time you try and solve them faster, and you go through the set of puzzles multiple times. That way you don't just solve the problem once and completely forget about it. If you solve it multiple times, there's more of a chance that those patterns will be seared into your memory, and you'll be able to use those, or more likely be able to use those in your own games. All right, so what do we do here? Well, we want to look at checks, captures, and threats in that order. Checks first as they're most forcing. And, the rook, of course, could check, but it would be captured if it moved here. So we don't want to do that. But we have a bishop check. So bishop captures, forking the king and the knight. But once we take that pawn, the king will be in check. And when a king is in check, there are 3 options: capture the attacker, block the attacker, or run. Sometimes you don't have all 3 of those options. There might be less. But once we capture that pawn, putting our opponent's king in check, they'll probably move their king. And then that'll give us time for the follow-up. So let's go ahead and take that. Now we have to deal with this threat on our rook that's unprotected. So we just go ahead and capture. They recapture, and we have time to pick off this knight. And now we're just ahead in material. All right, so that was on the higher end of these beginner puzzles for the in-between intermezzo move, or Zwischenzug, which is German for in-between move. All right, so here we go. On to problem number 2. A queen has just been captured, so the obvious move would be to just go ahead and recapture, unless we have something better. And it appears we may here. Let's take a look. We can go ahead and snatch up a pawn, delivering a check. Our rook is preventing that king from running. The bishop would not be able to be captured on f3, so they'd probably have to block. So that would probably be the best move, blocking. All right, so yes, checks. Always keep an eye out for checks, and they can be really good in between moves because you have to deal with that check immediately. So if we go there, and this is rated 470, they're not even going to continue. If we look at the material now, our opponent has 5 pawns, we have 4, we each have a rook. knights, bishop. We have an extra bishop. So now we check what can be done. Knight or bishop will block. Then we can just capture. They recapture, and then it gives us time to pick off that queen later. All right, on to problem number 3. The rook has just been captured, so the obvious move would be to recapture unless we have something better. And it appears we do. So, how do we proceed here? Well, as always, look for checks, captures, and threats, but especially checks first. And the only check is to, what? Go ahead and capture here. So if we take, they'll retake, but then we can move up here. Go ahead and capture that rook. And that would give us time to pick off the, their rook. All right. So let's go ahead and do that. Capture. Then, we can make sure, does that do anything? No, their king could move over and defend. So probably best just to take with check. Now that gives us time to pick that off. Like that. And we're just ahead, that extra rook now. All right, on to number 4 in these in-between moves. Queen is just captured because we were threatening a mate with the bishop and queen battery up here. Obvious move would just be to go and take that queen, but we have an in-between move, which is a check. So hopefully you found the move here. Knight captures with check, forcing the king to move away. And then what? Then we can go ahead and take that queen. So capture, we take, we have that passed pawn over here, which is going to be dangerous. All right, so that's what they wanted. On to the next problem. Problem number 5, rook is just captured. Looks like we could maybe go after that rook. But then what? Let's see if there's a better in-between move first. Okay. Our bishop is under attack. If we take their rook, then they can bring their other rook over and check us. So we could move our bishop here, capturing the pawn with check. But then they could just capture our bishop. Oh, okay, we have an even better move, a better check, so hopefully you found this move. We capture here with check. Now the king will have to move, and then we can go after that rook. So check. And do we have anything better here? Probably not. We just go after that. So now what? We're ahead. We have an extra piece, an extra knight. And their king is kind of out in the open there. All right, those problems went by pretty fast. I'll try and do 5 more here. That way we get an even 10 puzzles for you. Okay, the rook has swung over, attacking our queen here. Now, you'd think you would just have to immediately deal with that, unless you have the intermezzo, or the in-between move, the Zwischenzug. All right, so we're going to look for those checks. Hopefully you found the move. We jump up here, forking king and the rook. So something to think about. We're also attacking their queen. So maybe we go here. the king will have to move. Then we can take with check, giving us time to go after their queen and save our own. So there, because we're capturing with check, now our queen is safe and we have time to pick off their queen. So now we're just winning with that extra queen versus what? Their 2 extra pawns. All right, on to problem number 7. Here we go. What was that? A capture? Was that a pawn they just picked off? You'd think we could, just take with check there. But we have, an in-between move, which is a check. So most of these in-between moves are going to be checks because they're so forcing. So we go there. Now they're attacking our rook. So we don't want to just take their rook. We want to capture their knight with check, giving us time to get their rook. And now we have an extra knight versus their extra pawn. And once our king gets activated up here, we can really just guard our pawns and just start trying to pick off their pawns, and we should easily be winning. All right, problem number 8. We just had a capture. Our rook and queen are under attack. You'd think we would just take that bishop with our queen, but we have an in-between move, which is very powerful. See if you can find it. Hopefully you found the move. We're going to go ahead and take their queen with a check. They will have to respond to that, and that'll give us time to pick off their bishop. So capture, and then capture, and we keep our queen. All right, I hope you're doing well on these problems. Remember to try and solve puzzles regularly, daily if you can, and that'll help you improve your chess. And if you sometimes feel like you're getting worse at chess, sometimes you have to, maybe in general, when you're trying something new and you're learning new things, you'll probably get worse at first until you process all that new information and you're able to start utilizing it in your own game. So don't feel bad if you feel like you're just getting worse when you're learning something new, because after a while, you'll start absorbing the information and improving. So on to problem number 9. All right, what do we have here? Queen is under attack. Oh, but we have the in-between move. Instead of worrying about our queen under attack, we want to look for the check. So we can go ahead and pick that off, delivering a check. But they're probably going to capture here. That'll allow us to pick off their bishop, but then they could go and grab our knight over here. So let's see how this plays out. Take. We go there. Oh, and if they do grab that, we could always pick this pawn off and threaten a mate up here. All right, I hope you're doing well on those problems, and you did well on that one. Let's move on to problem number 10, the final problem. We have a capture, forking our queen and rook. That looks familiar, similar to one of the previous problems. And what do we have here? Also, our knight is being attacked. So we can go ahead and pick off that bishop with a check, forcing our opponent to deal with that, and then we can take their bishop. And we should go ahead in material here because now we have an extra bishop. All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed these 10 puzzles, which featured the Zwischenzug, intermezzo in Italian, if you don't like the German term, or just the in-between move where, before you just automatically make a response, look and see. You may have a valuable check, an in-between move that forces your opponent to deal with that, and then that gives you time to go ahead in material possibly. All right. Well, feel free to leave comments. I always love hearing from viewers and subscribers. Let me know what you think, what you want to see in the future. This video and the change in the format was requested. And, there's two ways to think about it when you're doing pattern recognition puzzle videos. If you do random puzzles, it's kind of closer to a game, but if you want to focus on a weak area, it's nice to also have puzzles that are specifically all that one type of tactic. So, stay tuned for tomorrow's video. I'll do a pattern recognition video on the Zugzwang. So you can check that out if you're not familiar with that. All right, well, once again, like and subscribe to support the channel. Leave comments. Thank you for watching and have a super chess day.